We're welcoming Vince Redmond via Skype. He is licensed marriage family therapist, and I said, we needed that today. We just saw a clip with Alexis Weinman, and it reminded me that we need to send out a shout out. Alexis's mother just passed away, and so we want to give a shout out to her. But it feeds right into, we were going to talk about something else today, Vince, but we want to talk a little bit about grief today, because while a lot of people are feeling exhilarated, there's about 51% of the people in the United States who are feeling grief, and some of them are autism parents. Some of our autism parents are thrilled, and this is just the way of it, but we need some perspective, and we need to know how to talk to our kids about grief. So first of all, thank you for being with us, Vince.
No problem. My pleasure. Well, the first thing we need to do is everyone, we just need to take a deep breath and just breathe and remember everything will be all right. We know there, grief is a part of the process of life, not only the process of our journey through the autism spectrum, but just through life, right? We love and we lose, and that's part of the life cycle. And part of it is, what we've experienced going through the autism journey, where, started very early on, where we started grieving when we, received the diagnosis. And that continues throughout the journey in different phases and different parts. But the way we respond to it, the way we're able to maintain it and to be able to understand it is something that's, that we need to work with individually.
Absolutely. And so, it's hard enough for us as adults, and of course I'm thinking about all the different levels of grief. Nancy's been going through the grief of having lost her husband.
Sure.
And we find our ways to deal with that as adults, but then languaging that to our kids.
Right.
That's a whole other thing. And a lot of times, I think our kids are more resilient than we know, but we see it come out in behavior. Don't you think that that's the truth, that it all comes out in the behavior?
Yeah.
It does. And this is why we always say, we want to, we always condone, communication. Now, the different levels of communication obviously are different per child, but we always want to make sure they feel comfortable, that there's an open space to talk, ask questions, open space to be able to cry and to be able to emote if they're upset and they need that release. That's something that we need to be able to give them to do. And sometimes that goes into sensory needs with kids. When they're grieving and they're going through an emotional process, biologically there's a lot going on in their bodies as well. We need to give them that time, give them that space to run and to climb and to release those energies. They might not be able to process it cognitively. They might not be able to process it, through language, but they can process it through their behaviors by getting a lot of that integration. And sometimes when something like that might happen, and we have a child that's nonverbal, we want to increase the amount of exercise, increase the amount of sensory release that they might be needing.
Yeah, did you want to add something to that?
Well, yeah, the problem is sometimes when you're in grief, you don't have the time to devote to some of these things. You're just literally on a treadmill and on a tightrope. And it's very difficult when you're in that process of grieving to take yourself out of it.
Well, and it makes it doubly difficult when the parents are grieving as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's different when the child's grieving or the adult has already come to grips with it and have already gone through their grieving process. But when the whole family's grieving, when the parents and the child are grieving, it's very true. It's hard to not only find the time, but also to be motivated sometimes to problem solve. What do we need to do for our kids to be able to, get them either the right environment to be able to process, or at least the right activities to help them. And this is where other professional individuals are very helpful. So counselors, therapists, ABA agencies that can reach out and specifically work with the kids on some of these things. This is where we reach out to those professionals for support.
And I'm wondering too, if part of it is expectations. So much of our society, we just keep on going.
Yeah.
Right? And used to be back in the day, and in some cultures now still, when somebody passes away, there's a whole process of, there's this many days that you don't do something, and there's this many days. A lot of employers now will give you 2 days off for a death in the family, and then it's like
Let me
business,
tell ya.
back to business as usual. I don't know how people do that.
Right.
And this expectation of, oh, you should be over it, oh, you should be back doing all the things. And I think our kids pick up on that stuff is not okay. Even for people who say to me today, oh, my kid doesn't know anything about the election, I'm like, your kid is a barometer for everything we're all feeling. Everything we're feeling, we unknowingly, unwillingly hang it on our kids, and it comes out in them. And I think sometimes we just have this expectation of, oh, you're supposed to have it all together already, Nancy, that it's been 10 months.
Oh,
like it's all
without a
supposed
doubt,
to be.
without a doubt. I get that.
And that's not realistic.
Because other people go on with their lives and they forget that you've had your heart turned out, ripped out of your body and stomped on. They just don't know that.
Right, and they might not have ever experienced it. And again, it's being able to survive and being able to manage is different than being able to have processed everything, right? And I think as soon as, when we're dealing with a loved one that has grieved, a lot of the outsiders are looking at just the being able to maintain and being able to, continue their just daily functions, right? Job and eating and those kind of things. But that does not mean that the process is continued or is complete. And as Nancy was saying, that it now you're even more alone because everyone's kind of gone back to their lives, and now everything's really setting in on the new reality of moving forward without that loved one, either obviously in Nancy's situation, her husband, and Wyatt's dad, but the process is the same for any loved one, a grandparent, a parent, a spouse, a family dog that the child might have been very close with. Right, and so when we're looking at that process, I think you both are 100% right. The process doesn't end for a long time, and just because they're able to maintain doesn't mean they're still not grieving.
So allow yourself permission for that process to go on.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And emote, cry,
Yeah.
be upset.
Yeah.
You take those moments where you can let it out, because that whole adage of keep it to yourself or it's okay, don't cry is very unhealthy. We need to let and give adults just as well as the kids opportunities to let it out.
All right, we thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Vince.
Vince.
Unfortunately, we're short on time today, but we will look forward to having you back next
And we'll
month.
talk about the holiday stress then.
Yes, we will do it. So thank you so much for being with us, Vince.
No problem, ladies.